Welcome to Active Crime Alerts. We're going to take just a couple of minutes and we're going to look at some topics, crimes that are not reported. There is a tremendous amount of activity, and each week I talk to someone who says, I thought that I lived in a safe and secure neighborhood. But the truth is that the bulk of the crimes that are occurring in neighborhoods are not being reported. And they're not, well, they might be being reported, but they're not making the news, which means you in your house 2 streets over are not getting the details about what happened in that house. So first, let's start out and talk about a very important one, and that is sex offenders living next door. When we were doing research, we found that the sexual predators or the sex offenders, after serving time, they have to be reintroduced into society. And a lot of times, these people are unable to get jobs. So the local governments and some of the municipalities, they are coming up with ways to house these people. And the way that they're doing it is they are putting previous sex offenders that are now released from prison into group homes. Well, the problem is that you're not being notified. So what we have found is we have found houses within subdivisions. In fact, this started because of my own family subdivision. And the house, I was registered for alerts to receive notifications from the state. And the local alert came through and it told me about a new offender that was placed within a proximity to me. And so as I began to research that information, I found out that there were multiple sexual offenders living in the same house. So when I went to look and dig a little bit further, I found that there were apartment complexes where there were 29 and 30 sex offenders who were living in those houses. And you know, this is a group of people who share a common thread. And that thread is the fact that there is an interest in young children or a fetish or problem with assaulting young girls and sometimes boys. But they were right in the neighborhood, and everybody is congregated into one area. So I don't think that this breeds a safe environment. And the problem is that you're not being notified. The other thing, as it pertains to sex offenders, is that if a sex offender is released and is homeless, they have to register. And so what I found was right down the street, it says lives in woods. Lives in woods at the end of this street. Lives behind supermarket or local shopping center. And so, your kids are out riding bicycles. They are walking down the sidewalk, getting passed by people they don't recognize. And a lot of these individuals, because they cannot get jobs, they are out on the street. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're looking for. Maybe they're just trying to survive. But you as a homeowner should have some sort of notice or alert that these people are living in the tree line between your subdivision and the next row of businesses, and you're not being told. Let's talk about thefts that are unreported in the neighborhood. When was the last time you saw a police car or a sheriff's car or something like that driving through the neighborhood and you had no idea why they were there? So in a lot of cases, they're not there just to make an appearance. They're there because they are investigating something that went wrong. Something happened. So thefts within the neighborhood, we're going to talk about that, are often not reported to anyone else in the neighborhood. So if it happened around the corner from you and you did not see the activity, then you're never going to know. So each day we talk to a lot of people that say, I was not aware that my subdivision had crime. or I was not aware that I was not safe. And what that is you have to keep up the appearance that this is a happy, beautiful subdivision without issues. But when you sit down and you think about it, there are a lot of crimes that are unreported that you're never aware of. So moving forward to peeping Toms. You know, everybody knows what a peeping Tom is. They're people who peek into windows looking for someone who is unsuspectingly, maybe they're getting out of the shower or they're getting dressed. And peeping Toms is a problem that is reported only once the individual hears or sees the movement of someone outside of their window. So imagine for a moment that you're in your home and you hear something outside, and you go to the window and you move the blind and you don't see anything, and you just shut the blind and you go back to what you were doing. Well, a crime occurred. It was not caught. The person was not caught. They got away with it. They saw you doing what it was you were doing, and you just simply moved on throughout the rest of your day or your evening. So here's a crime that occurred. It was unreported. No one knows. And the only time they're reported is when an arrest is made and it makes the news. If it doesn't make the news, now sometimes it doesn't make it down the street either. So peeping Toms is a huge problem, and it gets worse. So criminals within families, let's move on to that. We're going to talk about criminals within families, because what happens is criminals serve their time. And I am an advocate for serving time. For the people who break laws. And I'm an advocate for allowing someone an opportunity to recover. The problem is that when a lot of criminals, and this is your sex offenders, people who have raped others, people who have murdered others, when they are released, oftentimes they end up going to a family member's house. There is no law that says they have to alert you. Now, if they're a sex offender, they may have to register. But there's no law that says that a person who has been charged with murder previously, there's no law that says you have to be notified. So what does that mean? That means that these people are moving in with Marge and Linda and Tom down the street. Tom's son, who was charged with murder, he just mysteriously needs a place to live. So when these people show up, they're not going to advertise to you in the community or in your neighborhood that, hey, my child is a former sex offender. My child was charged with rape. My child murdered someone, and now after 10 years, they're out. You know, the only thing you see is they're out there mowing the yard, just kind of looking at your kids as they walk by. So the one thing that you need to keep in mind is that we have to check local alerts, and you have to have the proper security system. You need cameras in your home. You need cameras inside your home. You need stickers, and you need signs. You need things that tell these people, because they are in our neighborhood. We stand beside them in the supermarket. They are right there at the checkout with us. They are walking out to the car with us. They are walking down the sidewalk in front of our house because they do not have a driver's license. They don't have a way to get around. That's why when they wave at you and you often wonder, why are you walking? So keep your eyes peeled. Go ahead and move forward, and we'll look at local crime alerts.